Welcome into Between the Uprights. I'm Joe. That's Matt. Chris couldn't be here today, but that doesn't mean we're not going to be giving you that great football breakdown you come here for day in, day out, all the time, 24/7, 365. But first, before we get into all of that great football action, please hit that like and subscribe button for me. It means a lot to us right now. We're just getting this thing going, and we want to keep putting out the content that you want to see. So hit that like and subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. Now, the Chiefs are 6-0. And it doesn't feel like they should be. There are questions with this team. We saw the Rashi Rice stuff off the field before the season started. We've seen all this stuff. But realistically, Patrick Mahomes is having one of the worst statistical years of his career. This is not the Patrick Mahomes we have seen. He has 8 interceptions. I believe he leads the league in interceptions right now with 8. He's only thrown 6 touchdowns, which these are Daniel Jones-esque numbers, and Daniel Jones has a better TD to INT ratio, and he was just benched in their last game. So that kind of tells you the sort of trajectory that Patrick Mahomes is on. He's on pace for his lowest yards in a season. He's on pace for his lowest TD mark, highest INT mark. He's got one of his lowest QBRs and his second lowest rating of his career. And so, Matt, I got to ask, is it the lack of talent around him? Is it the scheme failing, or are teams just figuring him out a little bit after, what we've seen him do? I kind of lean towards the talent, but yet, you look at what the Bills gave up for Amari Cooper. The Chiefs should have jumped on that trade.
Yeah.
That would have been perfect for them. But now I'm starting to look in the landscape. There's not a lot of other wide receivers they could go out there and get help for. So, Matt, what's wrong with Patrick Mahomes, and how do the Chiefs fix it?
Well, Joe, I mean, to me, watching the games, he hasn't played well. I'm not going to. He certainly hasn't played well. The numbers will speak to that. He hasn't played well. But as far as what's wrong with Patrick Mahomes, nothing. I'm like on if I had to do a concern scale, my 1 to 10 on Patrick Mahomes, because right now, what Patrick Mahomes is playing for, it doesn't matter his regular season numbers. We've seen him be great in the regular season before. It doesn't really matter what their record is even going into the postseason. We saw that last year. They had one of their worst regular seasons going into the postseason last year. They had 4 straight pretty damn tough games. They had the Dolphins, who were hot last year. They had Josh Allen, who was starting to ball out down the stretch. They had Lamar Jackson, who just won the MVP. The Ravens were dominant. And then they had Brock Purdy and the Niners. And it was win, 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 win. Third Super Bowl ring for the Chiefs. So my concern level right now for Patrick Mahomes on a scale from 1 to 10 is a 1. I am not at all concerned about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. His numbers look bad. They obviously look terrible. He looks really, really bad numbers wise. You go look at his numbers. The only thing that really looks good for him right now is the completion percentage. His completion percentage is about 68%. That's 8th in the league. Yards per game, he's at 231, which is 13th in the league. Yards per attempt is 7.4. That's 12th in the league. But then you go to the touchdowns. Touchdown passes, he's 21st in the league with 6 touchdowns. INTs, like you mentioned, he's tied for the most in the league with 8 INTs. But his QBR, which kind of incorporates everything, and it is on a scale from 0 to 100, 50 being average, is 61. So he's 11th in the league there. Obviously, when you think Patrick Mahomes, you don't think 11th best quarterback in the league, but his numbers suggest like 25th best quarterback in the league, and QBR has him at 11th. And then quarterback rating is 82.5. So, and that's 23rd in the league. So as far as his numbers go, he looks terrible. His offensive numbers look awful. And when you watch the games, he doesn't look like he's playing that well, but he's also not playing that bad. I went back and looked at his interceptions. 5 of them were bad throws. 5 of them were really, really bad throws. And then 3 of them, one was the tip ball in the red zone that, hit the receiver right in the hands against the Saints, and then the defensive lineman picked it off. The 2 yesterday, I don't really blame him for either one. One was a tip ball that another D lineman picked off, and one was kind of a miscommunication between him and Worthy just falling down on the route. So I don't really blame him for either of those interceptions yesterday. 5 of them looked really bad. But with Patrick Mahomes, he's such a playmaker that he does things that other people just cannot do. He does crazy sidearm throws. He does behind the back bounce pass throw. He does crazy stuff, right? So when he makes a play, it's going to look great, right? But when he doesn't make a play and he makes an interception, it's going to look way worse. So you kind of have to live with that with your playmakers. I heard Cam Newton talked about that. You kind of have to live with that with their playmakers. So, but when you look at their offenses compared, like as far as their offensive numbers this year and last year compared, last year obviously was one of their worst team offensive seasons. They're very similar. They're having a very similar offensive season. In fact, they're averaging more points this year than they were last year, and they're rushing the ball better this year as well. So my concern level for Patrick Mahomes is 1 on a scale from 1 to 10 because, and when you watch the game yesterday, I think Tom Brady was the perfect person to be commentating a Patrick Mahomes game yesterday because Tom Brady does this better than anybody ever, which was he understands the game. He understands how good his defense is. He understands how good his offense is and how good his offensive line is how good his receivers is, what kind of scheme they have going on, how the game is flowing, right? Do I need to take some risks because it's a higher scoring game, or do I need to check the ball down and just run the ball because our defense is hammering it out, right? Patrick Mahomes understands that. And he sees how the game is flowing. He knows, hey, this is when I need to step up and make a play. He knows, hey, this is when I need to, need to chill out and, try to, just check it down and, maybe punt, stuff like that. You watch the game against the Niners, who makes the biggest play of the game? Patrick Mahomes with that crazy scramble going down 33 yards, getting down to the 1 yard line, and then trucking over that dude into the end zone for a touchdown on 4th and goal. So again, Patrick Mahomes' numbers would suggest he's not playing well, right? But you watch the games, the guy who's making the biggest play of the game to get his team to win every single time is Patrick Mahomes. So there's definitely something wrong with the Chiefs offense. Like you mentioned, there's a lack of talent. His top 2 receivers, are injured. Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice are out for the year. Travis Kelce clearly doesn't look the same. Isaiah Pacheco's on IR. They're not sure when he's going to get back. There's clearly issues on the offense, but they're 6-0 because Patrick Mahomes is one of the smartest, most talented quarterbacks in the NFL, the smartest and most talented quarterback in the NFL. And he just finds a way to win. And that's what it's all about. The touchdown and interception ratio doesn't look good, but the win-to-loss ratio looks damn good. The 6-0 win-to-loss looks damn good. And I think that's the most important stat for a quarterback. So there's something wrong with the Chiefs offense, but I'm not concerned about it at all.
I mean, you're right. You mentioned Tom Brady commentating on the game. It's like, I want to say there's something wrong. I want to say Patrick Mahomes isn't playing well. But I mean, like you said, when push comes to shove and it's crunch time, there's a reason he's, one of the best in the game. The guy consistently outperforms his competition when the game's on the line. He's done that, multiple times. We say that that's the biggest discrepancy in Lamar Jackson's game. The biggest problem that Lamar Jackson has is that when push comes to shove and he's trying to get, these, trying to get over the hump and he's trying to win playoff games, trying to go to the Super Bowl. The biggest knock on Lamar Jackson is that when push comes to shove, he doesn't make the best plays. He doesn't do the great things that we see Lamar Jackson or that Patrick Mahomes does. Patrick Mahomes is clearly having some difficulties with the injuries, right? And I would say that it's more along the lines of talent around him. He has had a few more tip balls than I think I've seen him have. He has kind of had to hold on to the ball a little bit more. But you're right. I think it's more of the pieces around him, right? He's the troubles we're seeing him have, the statistical drop off that we're seeing him have is more due to the parts around him than him himself. I think that Patrick Mahomes is still the same guy. The question is that, this is a significantly weaker offense than we have seen. And I think the defense has really had to play a substantially greater role in them being undefeated than maybe they have in the past. Now, you pointed out, they kind of were, had some bumps in the road last year. I think early on we were kind of curious how they were going to play. Chris Jones comes back, the defense looks great, and suddenly they start to take off on offense, and it gave them that chance to kind of get things working again. But I don't think that this offense, the way it's constructed right now, even with Patrick Mahomes and his crunch time ability to win another Super Bowl, I don't think this team, based on the injuries, based on the things we're seeing them have dealt with in the wide receiver core, the sort of drop off we've seen Travis Kelce sort of have right now, the reliance that they have on Patrick Mahomes to be perfect in these situations, and sort of it's not a sustainable way to win. And they need to go out and find somebody else to put into this offense. And, some names, I'm going to rattle some names. Kendrick Bourne in New England, right? Just got off of the football injury list. He's back. He's playing well. He's starting to up his snap count. You see sort of, the routes he runs, the kind of player he is. He's going to be cheap. Another Patriot, Tyquan Thornton, he's got speed, and, Andy Reid loves speedsters. right? And I don't think that he's ever been utilized correctly in New England's offense, and the change of scenery may be good for him. There are other options out there. I think the Cleveland Browns, if they're writing off their season, Elijah Moore got traded there after he was in I believe it was the Jets. So he's sitting there ready to go. He could go grab him. I thought that he had sparks in a Jets uniform for a while, but just never really got the targets. And I think it's more quarterback play than anything. There's guys out there right now that you could get on the cheap from these teams that are struggling. And I heard that people are calling about Garrett Wilson, asking what his availability is
crazy.
now. Yeah, so there is a lot of talent out there to be had. You just got to make the phone calls. I mean, you could find somebody somewhere willing to trade somebody. I mean, Deontay Johnson in Carolina, I know they just signed him. They were hoping to get a little more work out of him, but if you can get draft capital in a rebuilding year, Deontay Johnson could be that number one guy they need.
For sure.
And, he's right there. And I just don't see Calvin Ridley's disgruntled in Tennessee. Go get this man some help.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God, I'm not even a Chiefs fan, and I'm looking at this why are you what is your plan here, man? What are you hoping to gain? There's nothing to prove here by showing that Patrick Mahomes can just win with anybody. There's more on the table, more at stake. You could be the first team to three-peat.
History. Go get somebody. Definitely. I'm right there with you. You mentioned some good names. Deontay Johnson was the first one that came to mind for me. And the second one that came to mind for me was another struggling team, Christian Kirk from the Jags. The Jags are having a bad year. I think Christian Kirk, the Jags would have to eat some money there. You'd probably have to give up a little bit of extra draft capital if you're Kansas City. But I think Christian Kirk would be a great fit for Kansas City as well. So Deontay Johnson, Christian Kirk, you mentioned all the Patriots. Shit, we'll give them all to you if you want them. We're in a rebuilding year too. But there's a ton of options for Kansas City because, like I just said, they're going for history here. This is a three-peat. This is something that's never been done. And if you want to do it, even with all the injuries, you definitely have to add something. But again, like we talked about, like you said it earlier, it's going to be hard for them to win a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes having to be perfect down the stretch. This is the same dialogue we had all of last year where it was like, no, I don't think the Chiefs can do it. It looks like the Ravens' year. The Ravens are going to do it. Sure enough, they meet in the playoffs. Who wins the game? Patrick Mahomes. They get to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are the underdog against the Niners. There's, Rashee Rice. Do we really believe in him? Travis Kelce's getting old, blah, 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 blah. The Niners are going to take it. Boom. The Chiefs win in overtime, So it's like, I am not a Chiefs fan. I don't want the Chiefs to win. I don't want to see them prosper. But at the end of the day, you have to be honest with yourself and say, if Patrick Mahomes is in the playoffs, whoever they're playing against in the AFC, no matter how that offense looks, I'm telling you right now, I'm picking Patrick Mahomes because I've seen it over and over and over again. And I said this in one of the previous episodes at the start of the year. The Patriots are the Chiefs are what the Patriots used to be. We knew how it felt where no matter when it came playoff time, we were like, it don't matter. We're going to be in the AFC Championship game. You already know. And that's how it is with the Chiefs. They're going to be in the AFC Championship game. And guess what? They're probably going to win it too. So they're probably going to be in the Super Bowl. So for me, definitely go get him a weapon. Definitely go get him a Deontay Johnson or a Christian Kirk. But even if they don't, they get to the playoffs and they're playing the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. You really think at this point I'm going to pick against the Kansas City Chiefs against the Bills? No. They play the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. You really think I'm going to pick against the Kansas City Chiefs against the Ravens in the playoffs? No. I'm going to pick them every single time in the playoffs. It's because what they do every single time in the playoffs. So definitely get him a weapon, but I'm still not concerned about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I'm really not.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.